Okay, because look, the question is, how much can you take? How much can you endure? How much suffering is too much suffering for you to curse God or give up or throw in the towel or call it quits? How much pressure is too much pressure? Because that's what these verses is about. Because when you examine what happens in verses 6 through 12 of Job chapter 1, this conversation between Satan and God is going to be about how much pressure can Job take before he breaks, gives in, throws in the towel, curse God, and die. And so that's the issue. And we're going to look at the issue. We're going to examine the issue. So I ask the question is, how much pressure can you take? How much suffering can you take? How much pressure can you take if God allowed the devil to apply as much pressure in your life as possible before you give up and break? And so that's the question. Because let me give you this. Job had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He had thousands of animals and he had hundreds of servants. And by that standard, he was rich. And really, he was the richest man in the East. And so Satan looked at what Job had. Job had a good life. And he had everything that he needed, plus more than what he needed. He had some things that he wanted. His life was full of material things in abundance. Abundance number of children, an abundant number of livestock, and an abundant number of servants, which made him very rich, because that's how they measured wealth. And he was considered the greatest man among men in the East. But one day the sons of God had to report to God, and Satan was with them. Now, it doesn't say that Satan was one of the sons of God. You know that, right? It says that the sons of God came, and Satan was with them. That's what the text literally says. Y'all see that in the text? That Satan was with the sons of God. They said that he was a son of God, but he was with the sons of God who came to give a report. And so God asked him, where have you come from and what you've been doing? And Satan responds, going up and down through the earth, seeking whom I may harass or devour or bother. And God says to him, have you considered my servant Job? Satan's response was, I have. But you have a hedge of protection around him. Y'all see that conversation? The conversation is between Satan and God, and God is offering Job up to go through some suffering. And that is absolutely amazing, that Satan doesn't target Job. But listen to the text. God targets Job. And that's the strange theodicy of the text, that here is God targeting Job and says, I know somebody you can devour or harass and bother. He says, what the text say? Have you considered my servant Job? There's so much in that. If I was preaching, have you considered my servant Job? Job was a servant of God. He belonged to God. He acknowledged and owned God, and God owned him. And he says, have you considered my servant Job? It was not Satan that targeted Job, it was God. Satan was just looking for anybody Everybody. And it says, there is no one on the earth like him. He's blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. And Satan says in verse 9, did Job not fear the Lord for nothing? In other words, Satan says he doing all that he does for you, and he is the way he is, and he is a blameless man, upright man, and he fears you, and he shuns evil because life is good for him. He has everything he needs. You're good to him. And so therefore, he lives that way because you're good. And not only that, you're protecting him. You have a hedge of protection around him. Don't stop right there at that, behind that comma. Because he says, and around his household. Don't stop there. And around everything that he has. That is so reassuring that God not only protects me, he protects my household and everything that I have is under God's divine protection. He has a hedge around me, my children, and my possessions. That's what Satan was saying. You protecting Job, you protecting his family, and you protecting his stuff. A hedge. And that is kind of the same idea. You got all of his stuff fenced in with security, angels watching to ensure that nothing happens to him, his family, or his possessions. That's reassuring to all of us. Should be anyway. That God puts up a hedge of protection around us. And the only way Satan can get in is if God let him in. Satan does not have blanket permission to bother you. He can only bother you with God's permission, with God's approval, and with God's consent. That's what the text is teaching. He can go around and do what he does. But to target a servant of God, a child of God, somebody who is saved, he needs God's permission. God does not allow him to harass you, devour you, put his hands on you without his permission. Are y'all still with me? And then Satan says, and you have blessed the works of his hands, so that his flock, his herds, are spread throughout the land. You bless him and the works of his hands. You got a hedge around his possessions, you got a hedge around his family, and you got a hedge around him. And plus you blessing him. All of that is being done by God. Now the question of theodicy is, why didn't God just leave Job alone? Job was doing good. Why would God disrupt this man's life when this man is an exemplary Christian, doing everything that a godly man is supposed to do, because they weren't Christians back then, but doing everything that a godly man was supposed to do? Why would God even bother Job? Because the question is, why does bad things happen to good people or righteous people? Why do the righteous suffer? It looks like the unrighteous ought to suffer. You know that verse in Psalm says, be not envious of evildoers? It looked like evildoers ought to suffer, but it looked like people who don't do right, they don't never suffer. Ain't it the truth what I'm saying? You do right, you suffer greatly. I mean, it don't look like nothing seems to go right in your life. Ain't it the truth what I'm saying? As well as the unjust. I'm telling you, Job literally was not bothering anybody, and God chose to. God chose to pick him out, target him for suffering. And it doesn't make sense. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, it is absolutely amazing to me that this is how the cookie crumbles sometimes, that it just doesn't seem fair that you're trying to do right and you're doing right. And it yet seems like everything bad happened to you, but people who don't do right, it seems nothing happens to you. But he says it will eventually happen to them. But you belong to God. God allows that to happen to you. So let's look at this, because I really want to get into this and get really a little more in depth. So let me go back to this particular text, because here it is that Job is now targeted by God. Satan has to get permission to bother Job and to bring all of this certain calamity into the life of Job. He has to get God's permission. And it's absolutely amazing that here in this situation, he's having this conversation with God. And this is what he says in verse 11. But now stretch out your hands, strike everything that he has, and he will curse you to your face. Stretch out your hand, strike everything that he has, and he shall curse your face. The Lord said to Samuel, very well, then everything he has is in your power. Now, boy, that's some deep stuff. When God gives the devil permission and says it's within your power, that's scary, ain't it? That God gives Satan permission and gives him power to bring calamity, trouble, suffering, and difficulty into your life. But on the man himself, do not lay your hands. You can touch everything around him. You can disrupt his family, his material possessions, and you can even touch and disrupt the works of his hand, and that's at your disposal. But you can't touch him. And really, if you look at this situation, Satan had permission to do everything in Job's life but put his hands on Job. And then the text says, and then Satan went from the presence of the Lord. Now let me give you what I want to give you. Now, all of this stuff happened. I mean, when I say his life fell apart, and when I say it fell apart, I mean it fell apart. Everything happened in one day. I mean, when you read this text and you see how these events unfold and how all of this happened, are y'all there? One day, Job's sons and daughters were feasting and drinking at the oldest boy's house, and the messenger came and said to Job, ox were plying, the donkeys were grazing, and nearby the Sabaeans attacked them and made off with them and put the sword to the servants, and I'm the only one that escaped. And while he was speaking, another servant came and said, fire of God fell from the heavens, burning the sheep, the servants. I'm the only one left and escaped to tell you. And while he was speaking, another one came and said, the Chaldeans, raiders came in 3 parties, swept down and made off with your camel and put the sword, and I only one left escaped to tell you. And while he was yet speaking, another messenger came and said, your sons and daughters were feasting and drinking at the oldest boy's house, and suddenly a mighty wind swept from the desert, struck the four corners of the house, collapsed it on them, and they are dead. I'm the only one that escaped to tell you. And at this time, Job got up and tore his robe, shaved his head, fell down and worshiped, and said, naked I came from my mother's womb, naked shall I depart. For the Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. May the Lord's name be praised. Now, could you do that? After all of that happens, I mean, I tell the truth. Could you do that? You lose, especially losing your children. The children, all the other stuff is replaceable. Those are material things. Your servants you can't replace, your children you can't replace. Now all the other stuff he could have gained that back. How do you react after the death of a loved one? Terrible. It hurts you to your heart. It shakes your faith, the foundations of your faith. Have you ever asked the question, why? Yeah.
When you see that somebody else, like my father,
Yeah.
when I see that somebody else still has their father and I don't have mine.
Oh, yeah. Those are natural emotions.
Yes.
Because this is at the early stage of Job's loss. Now, it doesn't say that Job didn't grieve. Job didn't feel a sense of loss because the shaving of the head, the ripping of your clothes, that is a sign of grief and mourning. Job had an emotional and a mental reaction to his loss. It doesn't mean that he was without feelings and emotions. He felt some kind of way, but he did have the right perspective. You came into this world naked from your mother's womb, and you're going to leave naked. I don't care what they put on you in this casket. You came in with nothing, you're going to leave with nothing. And that's really what Job is saying. And really, this is something I really want to teach, Sister Calvary, is this. Don't become too attached to material things. Don't even become attached to people that you love because you don't have the power to keep them here. It is not within your control to keep the people here that you love. Listen, I'm not saying that you don't love them. I'm not saying that you don't value them. But listen, we all gonna die. It is once appointed unto man to die. I knew that if I didn't die before my mother, then my mother was gonna die. It's absolutely a guarantee. And that is amplified because my mother was aging and sickly. Let me ask you the question. It's gonna sound like a dumb question. Are you surprised when people die?
It depends on the situation. Not surprised that they died, but surprised when they died.
When they die, or the circumstances in which death takes them. Because let me tell you, it's absolutely just crazy sometimes how it happens when people just, like Lindsey Graham, he's a very notable figure. The aorta in his heart burst and just died unexpectedly. Wasn't sick. They say it's a silent killer, and you just don't know. Death is always looming over us and around us, and it's just life is not guaranteed. You don't have any guarantee. James says life is like a vapor. It appears for but a moment and then it's gone. And so don't act like you got tomorrow because you don't. Don't say what you're going to do tomorrow because you don't have tomorrow in your hands. You only have today. When you become so attached to people and And I know it's hard to lose somebody that you love, but we're not like those who have no hope. We believe in Jesus. We believe in the afterlife. We believe we'll see them again. And I know it's hard. I mean, I can't even imagine, but you know the thing that I hate for people to say, it's just so true. I hate it when they say it at a funeral, when they go to somebody's house and they lose a mother, and then you go there and say, I know what you go through. I lost my mother. You don't know nothing about what I'm going through right now. That's not an appropriate thing to say. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know the closeness of the relationship. You don't know the level of the mental health of the person who suffered loss. You don't know the condition of their heart, whether their heart can take it. And you don't know the closeness of the relationship. You just don't. It's too much you don't know. And people say that. And last funeral I had at this church, somebody them said, I know what you went through. I lost my mom. You don't know. Remind me of the story of the woman who lost her husband. And everybody was going to her like, girl, I'm so sorry you lost your husband. She just a grinning. Girl, I lost my husband. I know what you going through. They were just grinning. She just grinned. They said, well, girl, and when the film was over, they said, girl, why was you grinning? I'm glad he gone. So they don't know what I was going through. You don't know the relationship of people. You go trying to give heartfelt sympathies, and you don't know. You really don't know. That woman was waiting for that funeral to be over to get them death certificates so she could get that life insurance. And you don't know the hell that woman had to go through. And to get that man in that ground was a relief. She been oppressed for. I'm just saying, you never know. That's all I'm really trying to say. I'm not trying to make light of it, but you never know. And to say that, you really don't know. And so Job law, and he said, naked I came in. Don't get too attached to anything. You don't need to get too attached to living in life. You need to enjoy life while you have it. Don't take for granted that you're still alive and you were able to get up by your own means and will to get up and come out here this evening. I'm telling you, don't take it for granted. I got some members who want to be here, but they just ain't got the mobility to get here. It's a blessing to be coughing. At least you're here coughing. You know what I mean? We take for granted so much stuff, so many privileges, just to be able to be here. Man, I am at the point where I'm just happy to be alive. Whatever state I'm in, I'm learning to be content. If I got an ache in my leg, my ear, my eye, my tooth, I'd rather be feeling pain alive than dead and feeling no pain. Do I have any witnesses in here? You better be glad that life is as good as it is. Just be thankful you here. And crazy Miss Schaefer, I'll tell you, Miss Schaefer was crazy. Somebody at that field, I ain't gonna tell you who the woman was, talking about, don't leave me, don't go. And Miss Schaefer said she wanted to go over there and kick her in the hole. You want to go so bad, go on, get in the hole. Miss Schaefer crazy. Miss Schaefer, when we talking about, I don't want you to leave, don't go, and all that stuff. Miss Schaefer said, I want to go over there and kick her in that hole. You don't miss him that much. Miss Schaefer was crazy. Talk about, listen, it's a blessing to be able to attend a funeral. That means it ain't yours. You know what I mean? And you got to be, you're never ready to die, but you got to be prepared to die. You know that Tamara Mann song? Take me to the King. Don't take me nowhere. I'm like A.J. Mosley, Patsy. Give me just a little more time. Give me just a little more time. I got a lot of things that I'd like to do before I leave this world behind. Lord, I'm ready when you call me, Lord. But give me just a little more time. Y'all heard that song? A.J. Mosley sung that till he was almost 95. He sung it just about every Sunday, the Beaver Dam Baptist Church. And he was almost 95 years old, and he sung it until he died. I'm gonna sing. Listen, when I see death coming, I'm gonna start singing that. Take me to the King. Don't take me nowhere. I'm ready when you call me, Lord, but give me just a little more. I guarantee you, if the Lord told you you was gonna die, you'd be just like Hezekiah. You'd be going to them walls, praying to God for more time. Okay, since you so ready to die, quit taking your medicine. Since you ain't, I tell you, you can help death out. Since you so ready to go on to the great home in the sky, just quit taking your medicine. You ain't that ready to die. We all should be prepared, but ain't none of us ready. But be prepared, because we never know when death is going to creep into our room. And he said, naked I came into this world. But the point I'm trying to make, he done two things in that text you got to do when life weighs you down, life comes in and becomes difficult for you to live it. You got to worship and you got to praise God. Because you might have lost everything, but still you're here. You lost your daughter, your sister, your mama, your father, but you still here. That's worth worshiping and praising God. And above and more than that, you ain't lost your mind. You're still functioning. Some of us have went through such personal loss, we didn't think we could live another day, but you're still living. You are far removed from the suffering or the loss that you suffered. You didn't think you could make it. And whoever you lost, if they could see you, they can't. You being the way you are, coping with life the way you coping, if they could see you, they can't. They'd be so happy because they happy. But they seeing that you still making it. You're still coming to church. You're still being faithful. You didn't lose your faith. You didn't lose your hope. Boy, let me tell you something. Marie Champlin, even though she wrote me that ugly letter, boy, if she could have, if God would have let her peep through the window of heaven, look down in the Watson Grove Baptist Church and see her baby boy doing her film, boy, she'd have been grinning like a chess cat, because mama could grin. She'd have been grinning to see her boy up there preaching. Now, because one time my mama had a smile that you couldn't wipe off for nothing is when I preached. She was like, she thought Jesus was up on the mountain teaching when Robbie, and if she could have just saw a glimpse of me up there preaching her funeral. And I'm telling you, if the people that you love could see that you're still making it and you're coping with their death, they would be such at peace. Okay, y'all with me? In all this, Job did not sin or charge God wrongly or of any wrongdoing. Job did not blame God. Now you got to understand that at this point, he did not say that he was being punished, that God had it out for him. And that is not a right perspective to have. That God has it out for you when misfortune happens in your life. You know, there's some things just going to happen because you're human. Some things are going to happen because you were born in a sin-cursed world. Some things are just going to happen because you are a material person that's made out of matter. And this earthen tabernacle is going to dissolve. Just because you get sick, that doesn't mean God is out to get you. Just because you suffer loss doesn't mean God is out. Don't have that perspective. And so many Christians, so many people think that God has it out for them or that they've done something wrong. That's what his friends are going to say. And so Job did not charge the Lord. And so on another day, so the first round, Satan lost. But you know that sucker don't give up. Because chapter 2 says He went down there and hit Job with all that he had, all that the Lord had given him power to do. He went down there and told Job up. And he didn't win, so he had to go back. And so it says on another day when the angels presented themselves to the Lord, Satan also came with, you see, I understand, with them. The Lord said, Satan, where you been? And where you coming from? And Satan says, roaming about. He didn't even bring Job up because he thought he knew he didn't win because he didn't win what God said wouldn't happen, didn't happen. It says, I've been roaming throughout the earth, back and forth. And the Lord said again, have you considered my servant Job? Now look here, Lord. Now you done sent the devil one time. Now look, lay off of me. You see what I'm saying? That would be the logic of a person. See, we know what's happening, Job don't. But from your perspective, from the outside in, wouldn't you say to God, if you knew that he had sent the devil the first time, wouldn't you say to God, if he got ready to do it the second time, say, wait a minute, Lord. Enough is enough. I don't know why I had to cry sometimes. I don't know why I had to climb the rough side of the mountain. But then he says, have you considered my servant Job? And the same thing. He is no one like him above the earth. He's blameless, upright man, fear the Lord and sure evil. And he's still, you see that? Because see, God is responding to Satan's first attack. Because Satan, you said that he would fold under the pressure of losing his possessions, his family, and the works of his hands being cursed by Satan's power. But God says still, he maintains his integrity. Though you inflicted him or you brought ruin to him without any reason. Now that's an important phrase, because really Job hadn't done nothing to Satan. But Satan took God up on his offer. And then this is what Job said, and this is when it gets serious. Now let me tell you something. To lose your possessions, to lose your family, and for the works of your hands to be cursed and rendered unproductive is one thing. But what Satan does next, that's on you, and that's about you. Skin for skin, Satan replied. A man will give all he has for his own life. But now stretch out your hands and strike his flesh and his bone, and he'll curse you to your face. Satan ups the ante and says Job still got his health. Now Satan wanted to take Job's life or take him as close to death and really just go in all at him, but God wouldn't let him. And then the Lord said to Satan, very well. It's another scary statement. He is in your hands, but spare his life. You can do as much as you want. You can go on, do what you're going to do. And Satan went from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from his feet to the crown of his head. Now Job's health has been compromised. God has allowed that to happen. Now this is one of the rare times that we know where Job's sickness came from. It was caused by Satan, allowed by God. Not all sickness is caused by Satan, allowed by God. Sometimes it's just this earthly tabernacle is dissolving. You're just getting old. You don't eat healthy. And then sometimes diseases that are in your body affect your body. Everybody in here has a level of hypertension. Everybody here has a level of diabetes. Everybody in here have cancer cells in your body. They just don't metastasize and grow and become malignant tumors. You got them in your body. So that has nothing to do with what Satan does and what God allows. It's just that that's the natural process of life. You do know that if you didn't die, you wouldn't go to heaven unless you ran into Jesus at the rapture. And so this is this level of, and so Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself and put ashes on his head. And then here's why. Now see, you gotta watch them people that come when life turns you upside down, inside out. And they start coming talking to you. Because see, it'll really reveal why people are with you and why they friends with you. Because see, nothing really happened to her other than she lost her children and she lost her material possessions, but she still had Job. But now her perspective is going to change because now she got to take care of a sick Job. She didn't leave Job because she knew Job could recover as long as he had his health. But now his health is gone. Now she got to look at a sick Job, a disgusting Job. And now Job's potential to recover, his potential to be intimate, to produce more children, his potential to go out and work and regain his wealth has now been compromised because he doesn't have the one thing that he needs, and that's his health. As long as he had his health, she said, okay, lost my children, lost all this material possession, but I still got my husband. He can still work. We had it one time, we'll have it again. Because I still got my healthy, strong, smart husband. But now Satan comes and compromises his health. Now she looks at her husband completely different. So now, and really, I don't want to put too much dramatic tension on the text, but she probably thought in her mind, what good are you to me now? You sick. I got to take care of you. I mean, she's really revealing a lot about herself in sickness and in health, in wealth and in poverty, to have and to hold until death do part us. You got to be careful when you marry somebody because you never know how circumstances will change. Go ahead. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Because she's going to play an important role in the story. Because it reveals something about the people around Job, somebody significant. Now, somebody said last week that he got a new wife. The Bible doesn't say that. Well, you keep saying that. Well, okay, if you say that, we'll get to that point and I'll answer that question. But the point of it is she plays a significant role in the narrative of the story. She's going to come and she's going to apply pressure because, listen, I don't want to really put too much emphasis on this, but Satan always needs somebody in which to work through. Because listen, if he didn't have no wife, he didn't have nobody to challenge him and to question him, human, a person tangible that he could see, she needed to be there because Satan needs an operative. He cannot, listen, he didn't know who was behind this, but Satan used his wife to question why you still loyal to God. She knew that he was a man of faith, a man devoted to God, a man who exercised the tenets of his faith by sacrifice and worship. And now she's there to question, why are you still going to church? Why are you still praying? Why are you still faithful to this God who has allowed all of this to happen? Making sense to you? His wife said to him, are you maintaining, I'm going to put some dramatic tension. I can imagine her walking around that house. Job got sick. She walking around that house and looking at him. Got boils all on him, scraping. Now he done went outside, got in a heap of ashes from leftover wood that he burned. He's sitting out there in the backyard. She looking in the kitchen window, looking out the kitchen window. I ain't gonna say what a sister would say, because I can't use that word because Carolyn here. Look at this. And he out there, I mean, he stinks. He looks terrible. He done shaved his head and boils. He has this disease where his skin is literally falling from his flesh and pulse is coming out of these open sores. And she's looking at that. Now she realizes that their life has drastically changed. He's no longer the man she married. Now his health has been compromised. Now her loyalty is finna be tested. And since her loyalty is finna be tested, she's finna test her husband's loyalty and say, why are you still maintaining your integrity? The God that you serve, the God that you love, that said he loves you, now you going through all of this. And Job had the right response in verse 10. You talking like a foolish woman. Now listen, this is a good statement, what he says. Shall we accept, I love other translations says, only good from God and not trouble? I'm telling you, my brothers and sisters, I thank God for trouble. I don't invite trouble, I don't like trouble. But trouble has a purpose. It is a teacher. It's medicine. It helps to develop character and faith and maturity and endurance and resistance. God sends and allows trouble to come into our life. We only serve him because of good. It's all necessary. And Job says, look, we accept good from God. Can we not accept trouble from God? In all of this, Job did not sin. And then I'm getting into this and I'm finna close. His wife talking foolish. Now his friends show up. Now I'm telling you, boy, I tell you, after a tragedy, loss, suffering, and pain, you know what messes up your whole mood and perspective is when folks show up. Now let me tell you, Job didn't invite them. They just heard that this great man in the East has suffered all of this tragedy. And now the reputation is that this man who had everything has lost everything, and he's still faithful to God. And now they finna go there to look at him. And they're gonna go there to observe Job. For 3 days, they ain't gonna say nothing. They just gonna sit there. They were doing good when they did that. And it wasn't until they start opening their mouth. And I know I've talked this before, but I really want to get you this. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, they heard of Job's troubles had come upon him, and they set from their homes to go meet by agreement to go and to sympathize or to mourn or to comfort or to be there for him. And when they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. He didn't even look the same. His wife left him outside. Wouldn't even let him in the house. They saw him from afar. Because if he was in the house, they wouldn't have been able to see him. He was in this ash heap. And he was out there, and they didn't even recognize him. Because now this Job that they knew, he didn't look like himself because of what he had been through. And so they came there and they didn't recognize him. And they began to weep aloud. Now listen, they crying more than Job crying. And I can't stand that. And I'm telling you something, y'all finna get me on my soapbox. If this family on this front row ain't acting a fool, what y'all out here acting a fool for? If this woman who lost her husband, these children who lost their mother or father, ain't up here cutting up, acting a fool, what is y'all out there doing all that nonsense, hollering and screaming for? I remember one funeral I had here, the family was here, the mama and them was here, everybody was just quiet. And everybody else was just acting a fool. Alvin had to come tell one woman, sit down. She wasn't even akin to the folk by blood. I'm telling you, they just cut Job sitting there accepting his fate in life. And they come there just crying, carrying on, more than Job. More than Job. I mean, just cutting up. Now let me say this. Job is strong, but let me say this. Now, I'm on my soapbox now, and I'm going to be finished. Now, these films getting out of hand. Film is like a wedding. It's a sacred. There is decorum. There is a way we ought to mourn, as it is, there's a way we ought to get married. There's a way we ought to worship. And a lot of this stuff we're doing is unnecessary. It's not a part of the tradition of mourning the loss. We do too much spectacle. It's supposed to, hold me, Jesus. It's supposed to be a sad occasion. Don't be trying to make my funeral a joyful occasion. Y'all better mourn. You better not be up here shouting because I'm dead. If Ernestine shout, go slap her. She better be bawling like a baby. And that back there, she better not shout. She better fall over in the casket and mourn. I'm telling you right now, don't be celebrating my homegoing. You come to mourn my homegoing. That's the way we used to do things. Go ahead. It's stupid. It's loud. It's disruptive. It's disrespectful. I'm on Facebook Live. It is supposed to be a time to mourn, not a time to celebrate, not a time to put on a spectacle, not a time to put on a show. And you're not supposed to do more for the person when they dead than they was when they were alive. If you didn't carry on like that when they were alive and put on a spectacle and show, because they can't see nothing, they can't hear nothing, and they don't know nothing. I just said that. Now comment on my statement. Feeling supposed to be sad. It's a time to reflect on your own mortality. That one day that's going to be you. Solomon says it's good to go to the house of mourning better than the house of feasting. Because at the house of feasting, which is a party, you're not thinking about your mortality. You're not thinking about your death. You're not even reflecting on your own immortality. But at a funeral, you should be thinking about your own death. That one day that's going to be you, and it should urge you to get right with God. Get right with people. Funeral's supposed to be sad. Supposed to be a time of mourn. And what we do now, and I'm sick of folk getting up, talking, and just carrying on. You talk at the wake, not at the funeral. Informally, if you want to have folk talking and speaking over the dead, do it at the wake. Sunday, the funeral is supposed to last less than an hour, in and out. It's very sacred and very quiet, very reflective. But carrying on the way we carry on, do not, Michelle better be bawling. Y'all better drag her out. She crying so hard. Miss Carrot, listen. Miss Carrot better carry on. Be up there talking about clapping, celebrate. No, I'm having my funeral right here. No, my funeral gonna be right here.
It's gonna be at your home church.
No, it's not gonna be right here. This is my home church.
Your children are not gonna let you.
My children ain't got nothing to do with what I'm gonna do when I die. It's in my will. I'm gonna be buried right here. I'm having my funeral right here. And I'm going over there to Greenwood. I'll see my mama when I get to heaven.
You done made your will. You done did a will.
You ain't taking me back nowhere. You better be at my grave every birthday to celebrate. And then them children ain't probably gonna never come see me. I want some fresh flowers on my grave. You better leave that little house over there and go out there and don't go get no artificial one either. And I want it maintained. Hey, my funeral gonna be here at this church. If something happened to me, bring me. Yes. The person that needs to know that. Bringing me to my church. Y'all are my family. Why would I not come to my church? Okay, you got one or two. They got one or two choices.